Gotta love technology. I really wish I was in the studio.
Oh, okay, you're good
Who
now.
needs the sound?
Get a freaking virtual background.
Okay, now they can hear you.
Okay, so we need to do the opening again, or we're good?
We can do the opening again one more time.
All right, I'm ready. And whoever sent me that, thank you.
Teens with dreams. Teens with dreams.
This is the Legion.
Teens with dreams, yeah. All I wanna do is me when I grow up. Teens with dreams, yeah. All I wanna do is me when I grow up. Teen with a dream don't get no harder. Gets easy once you start it. No use in running away. Mr. Panting said you got it.
Yeah, you got that, and it feels so good to be on track. Even when you fall down, ain't no other way around. Your success is determined by your bounce back. Dream.
Welcome, everybody, to Hamilton Radio as we are pulling out all the glitches today. I'm your host, Ava Holly. This is Ava's Casual Chat, and we are going to get right into it. First, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Panting Productions, Teens with Dreams, usually on from 2 to 3. And, everybody's in a funk right now, or most of us are in a funk and trying to stay positive around it. And so Marco's not going to be able to be with us today. So we're just going to give him a shout out. And as he always says, start your day off by making your bed. So I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, International Hall of Fame radio show host and one of our guests today, the lovely Jerry Petito. Woohoo! Also want to give a shout out to our what do you call it? The intro. The Logan brothers who do the intro for us so nicely. We're going to get one for Ava's Casual Chat soon. Right now, we have that beautiful one for Teens with Dreams. We also have John Christian of Zerkers with us today, Mike Peluso from True Living, and Phyllis Papa, the artistic director of the Atlantic City Ballet. So welcome, everybody. I hope you guys get to connect after. How's everybody doing today?
Good, baby.
Good, thank you.
Everybody's good? Cool. So we're going to call this episode Stories. And I think with everybody going through a lot of things, a lot of people are still shut in their homes. There are a lot of stories going on. And I want our listeners to get a good idea of who you guys are as guests today, because you all have these amazing stories. So I'm going to let Jerry start us off, and then I'll do mine, and then I'll come to you individually. But Jerry, I want some of these guys and our listeners to know about your background, how you came to your book, how you came to the radio show, and what's happened in your life over the past few years.
So, hey, everybody, I'm Jerry Petito here. Hi. I'm an open book now, obviously, because I wrote a book. I'm not an addict. I'm just an smart ass and a dumbass, because 29 years ago, this in July, I was a dumbass. But 29 years later, I can now say I'm a smart ass. God is good. And so my story is, about 5 years ago, 5 years ago, God said, write your book, because I never really talked about all of it until then. I mean, my family knew, obviously. I was in a rehab, when I was 30 years old, blah, blah, blah. But I never really brought it to the forefront. But through all those years, I was reaching out and helping addicts along the way, and helping anyone in need, really, because that was my calling. And God said, and I said, no worries. You saved my life. I'm going to save others. So for those 29 years, I was doing my part with it, but I never brought it to the forefront. So God said, write your book. Woke me up one night. I'm not kidding you. And I said, you want me to write the book? Okay. I didn't tell anybody I was going to do it. And I fast every year, because I'm also a nutritional health coach. I cured myself of 2 cancers back in the day without doctors, or I would be dead. And I have doctors in my family. I love doctors and nurses, but I was really sick and I had to cure myself. So I traveled all over the world on these health tours. I even went to Russia in the 80s when it was communist, through Lenox Hill Hospital. And I found out all these different ways to heal myself, which I did. Thank you, God. But through all of that, I laughed and I said, all right, God, I'll write this book. And I'm a writer, I'm a poet and all that stuff. And I called my brother. My dad had Alzheimer's. And I said, all right, you're on dad duty this month. I'm going to do my fast for a month. And I didn't tell anyone I was writing it. And I kid you not, in 3 weeks, the book was done because God wrote it. And but I hand wrote it, Ava. I hand wrote it. You know that. Because
I know.
Terrible. So I called a friend of mine and I said, can you get this on the computer? And she said, yes. And she got it. And then she said to me, here's the deal, Jerry. Her uncle who's passed, he was a publisher. And she said, we're going to send it to 100 different publishing companies. And it may not get published right away. It may take a year. It might not, whatever. I said, oh, no. God wrote the book. I said, we're just sending it to Simon & Schuster. That's it. She cracked up. She goes, okay. In 5 days, we got a 3-way call from Simon & Schuster, and they said, we're publishing your book.
That's
and I laughed.
crazy.
I said, I know. It was God. Because I believe that wholeheartedly. And so anyway, that's my story. And when I got the book published, Hamilton Radio approached me and said, let's do an interview. I said, okay. So I was on DJ Danny's show. Doc G, who started Hamilton Radio, over 27 years ago, and now Ruben's a partner, and Monk is, and it's incredible. But they gave me an interview on his daughter's show, and he said, Jerry, how about a show? And at first I said no, and then we talked, and about a month later, God said, do it, and I laughed again, and I said, you want me to do it? You want me to have a radio show? Okay, and I did. From that moment, I was picked up over the course of the next year by 2 other networks, over the course of the following year, 2 years later, by 3 more. So I'm on 5 different networks all over the world. And in December, I was enshrined, Ava, and you know that, into the Hall of Fame nationally, into the International Hall of Fame for radio show host. So that's my story. And I'm saying all that to say this. I'm going to be 60 years old. So I want everybody out there to understand one thing. I didn't write my book till I was in my 50s. Never say never. Never give up.
Yep.
Never think you're too old. Okay. Who would have ever thought that? I mean, think about it, guys. So you are not at all powerless, not over anything. Don't listen to anyone ever telling you you're powerless over anything. You are not. And you can reach out to me if you want help. If you want my book, you can't afford it, I'll send it to you. You are not powerless, and you can do anything with God.
Cool. I know that. And you're amazing, Jerry. So I'm going to follow you. And then later we're going to give out everybody's contact information so that people can reach out to you. But I too am an author, and I did the same thing, Jerry. I went to a conference and I went to an author's book panel in Texas, and I kept telling everybody someday I'm going to write this book. So my mother would encourage me about this book. Someday I'm going to write this book. And I went home and I went, what the heck? When is someday? Someday is now. So it took me 8 months to write it, but it took me over a year to get it into print. And I still don't have it online yet, but that's the next phase. And it's kind of a funny story about the strange things that happen to us when we go into public restrooms and how they relate to starting a business. So it's kind of cool. It has some business tips after each story. And some people like the little stories. Some people like the business tips and blah, blah, blah. And from there, I too evolved into now doing publishing for other people. We use an online self-publishing platform, yet we add some little extra stuff to it. So my story goes back, well, it could go back a long way, but the more recent part of the story goes back to when my mom passed away from brain cancer. And she was the one who encouraged me to write my book, but I couldn't understand it. You always hear these stories of things happening in people's lives, and it doesn't really hit home until it hits home, if you know what I mean. So when we lost my mom in 2009, I started my company in 2008, the end of 2008, October. We lost my mom in February of 2009. We lost my father in August of 2009. They both lived in Miami, and my sister and I planned funerals from here. So it was a little crazy. Yet I spent a lot of time, my mom died from brain cancer, and I spent a lot of time trying to find a place that did research. And long story short, moving forward, I hooked up with the National Brain Tumor Society and also the Lou Ruvo Center, which is part of the Cleveland Clinic out of Vegas. And so we have a nice affiliation with the National Brain Tumor Society. So I took that one step further. I mean, I'm working with, those of you that know, I'm working with Avas eye bags now. We're kind of a little in a stuck position because my manufacturer may have to close his business. So we're kind of in a little standstill right now, yet it is an Avas eye bags movement where there's 21 different styles of bags that are empowering bags. And we are creating a man's line also for those of you guys out there. And, they have an empowering message on the outside, an empowering message on the inside, and each style gives back to a different charity. And I'm choosing charities that, have people involved. Like the Lou Ruvo Center does all like neurological diseases, if you want to call it that. My very good friend has Parkinson's. And so I was really, she was a big input in evolving the bag. So I was really, taken by having Parkinson's as part of one of our charities. So we have about 12, maybe 13 of the 21 charities selected already. And there's a lot of things going on behind closed doors. And I've been in talks with Mike, who's one of our guests today, about some of the things we can do while we're still in a standstill right now. Yet anyway, so we have a lot going on. And those of you that know me know I wear many hats. So 4A Star is an umbrella company over the entertainment industry. We work with New York Fashion Week, Atlantic City Fashion Week. Shout out to my good friends, Lamont and Gina Bowling, Samina Mughal, who's an international global fashion designer. And we're heavily involved in both of those events. So before we move on, I just want to give a shout out to the Brigantine Aquatic Center. You really can't see I'm wearing the open water swim shirt today. I was there at 7 a.m. today volunteering for the open water swim, and they get people from age 5 to age 70 swimming in the bay, and they get awards, they get trophies, and we were there doing all that today. So if you want to reach out to find out more about the Brigantine Aquatic Center and what they do, it's brigantineaquaticcenter.com. Okay, I'm going to move on to John Christian. I know you have an interesting story that Jerry's going to relate to also. So if you want to introduce yourself, tell us how you got to where you are today with Zerkers.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a pretty amazing journey for sure. And I think when we set out on these things that are set on our heart, we don't know exactly where it's going to lead. And taking that leap of faith is so important. So my story starts a little bit back when I got married. So I got married when I was about 23. And my wife turned to me, she said, you should probably find a job that's going to pay the bills and get us a house. So I did that. And I got into the banking and finance for about 10 years. So I spent a decade doing financial advising, a business banker, a personal banker, things like that. And I always had this adventurous heart. And my daughter turned to me one day and she said, "Hey, Dad, do you love what you do?" And I couldn't honestly look her in the eyes and tell her I did. And so I had to lead by example. I couldn't have her tell her to do that and not do it myself. So that led me on an adventure that changed my life. So one of the first things I did was accomplish more in 1 year than I had in the past 10 years of my life, which included getting mentored by my childhood surfing hero, Brad Gerlach, who was the #1 surfer in the world, who surfed 60-foot waves. And he taught me how to overcome fear. And that opened a floodgate. And I started doing things like bungee jumping, skydiving, endurance races, Tough Mudders, and just pushing and challenge myself way outside my comfort zone. And that led me to backpack 3/4 of the coast of Costa Rica, surf with crocodiles. And I got the longest left-hand break in the world after hiking with 50 pounds of weight on my back. And the sun was setting and the waves were breaking over my feet. And I heard this voice within and without and said, "Well done, now go tell the world." So I'm a pretty laid back guy, surfer, I enjoy it. I'm really going to put this on my heart, right? So I came back and I started facilitating adventure challenge experiences. So having people write their own obituary before jumping out of an airplane, or going whitewater rafting and talking about flow state and the river representing flow and the rocks representing obstacles in life. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was actually doing learning development and coaching. So at the time I was doing some consulting and actually went to work for one of the largest coaching schools in the country and got certified as a certified professional coach worked in New York in learning development. And through that process, I founded Zerkers. And so now I'm on the path to revolutionize the education systems and corporate America with a system that I developed as a result of this whole process of going through, which is conscious human performance. And it's just getting people fully aligned with what they were designed to do and on this planet. And it's just that mission that's taken hold of me. And there's so many amazing people that I've met along the way. And it's just an amazing thing that I would have never thought that I could have accomplished back in the day. And so my son now, the profound question that he asked me was, well, Dad, what have you been recognized for lately? So now I got to go play on a little bit larger scale to follow the kids are amazing. So that's my story.
John, tell us what Zerkers means again. I know you told me, but for those in the audience and the other listeners.
Yeah, for sure. So Zerker started actually as business berserkers. So I'm a big Zach Wilde fan, and he calls all his fans berserkers. And one of the mentors that I followed said, you know what, you want it to be like a tribe, like a community. And I'm like, oh, what's business berserkers short? So Zerkers. So it's a tribe of individuals coming together that value conscious living and adventure.
Yeah, that's a cool story. That's an amazing story. It's just so amazing. Jerry, I know you guys will connect. You'll all connect. I know you will. It's a great panel today. I want to move over to Phyllis Papa, the artistic director of the Atlantic City Ballet. Phyllis, I know there's still people out there that say Atlantic City has a ballet. So you got to fill us in. Tell us how long the ballet's been around and what's going on.
Well, believe it or not, it's 38 years old. I started it when I was 4. And that's really just, I have from around the world. They come from Asia, Europe, South America, and US. I don't have as many US dancers as I would like, but we do quite well. We do close to 40 performances a year. We tour. We've gone for the last couple of years to California, Arizona. Napa has been just a great adventure for us. Not because it's the wine country, but it's just beautiful out there and the weather is beautiful. But we have a home here in Atlantic City at Caesars Circus Maximus Theater. And every month we do a different performance. Most professional ballet companies do about 4 different performances a year. We do 7, sometimes 8. So with COVID in the spring, we had to make a complete halt stop like everybody else and could not finish our spring season. But we were lucky enough to get the PPP loan. So the dancers were on salary, even though they weren't coming into the studio for the full amount of time that they had counted on until June when our season ends. And we're hoping that we'll get started in September with Papa and Sinatra. Now, the wonderful thing about this ballet is we're bringing in Dave Dominani from LA, who's a singer, with his No Vacancy band. So we hope that that will work. It's the end of September, the last Saturday in September. And it's actually the 26th. So we're hoping that we can get into rehearsal the beginning of September. However, our studios where we rehearse is Boardwalk Hall, and they're closed at the moment. So we can't even get in there to get into the office, which is a problem for us at this time. But I'm hoping that everything opens up. I mean, in Atlantic City, we haven't had that many cases. I'm hoping the governor will, open up a little bit more. I know that Caesars is talking about a 25% capacity, and the theater seats 1,600. So we probably can bring in 400 people with distancing, both on both sides of their seats, plus forward and back. So we're hoping that that will happen. I have dancers all over the world trying to get back in. And I know the biggest problem is my Italian dancers, because their embassies are not opening until September. So I'm wondering if I'm going to have to replace them or not. I'll be looking for more dancers to bring in if I can't get them back to the country. That's a big obstacle for us right now. And
have the dancers been able to train?
What?
Have the dancers been able to train? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Well, I did, but
they're not able to class together. So what I've been doing is monitoring them on Zoom. They're all doing individual classes to try to stay in shape. And what's really amazing is everybody, even though we do a ballet class every day to stay in shape, they also have their own little exercises that they do that keep their own particular body, because everyone is different,
Right. Right.
flexible and enough strength to even do a ballet class. So we've been doing a lot on Zoom. It's not easy. Ballet dancers don't do well by themselves, obviously. They need everybody to, be together. But we're, like the times where things are changing and we're trying to make it work.
Right, right. I went walking around the Borgata yesterday for various reasons, and I noticed that at the slot machines, they do not have any plexiglass. However, they have the seats, like you sit in one seat and the next seat has this paper, like a paper casing over it, so that you can't sit next to somebody. So I'm wondering if Caesars is going to do that for the ballet performance. It sounds like something that they might entertain.
Well, when someone comes into the theater, the security does wave them down and all of those things, check their bags, so they can control how many people come through the door at the same time. And people can pick the section they want to sit at, but not necessarily their seat. The ushers will seat them, so there is social distancing like that. And I believe for the dancers and also all of us backstage, the crew, temperatures will be taken as usual, but that could be devastating to us. If I have one dancer that gets sick,
what do you do?
Because we're a small company, we don't have understudy backups. So, changing choreography is very, very difficult on the spot, that would be my job, to change choreography and have an emergency rehearsal. That I'm not looking forward to if anything like that should happen. So I need to keep everybody safe, not only the staff, the dancers, but also the audience. So it's a very big challenge, I think.
Yeah, it is. It is. I was asking about the training because today at the open water swim, they didn't do one of the longer races. They had two races, the adults and the children, and they didn't do the longer race because there hasn't been any facilities for the people to train to swim. So they didn't want any, of course they have the beach patrol and everybody in the water with them for safety, but they didn't have the longer races today. So anyway.
If we have to go to
I didn't hear the last thing. What did you say, Phyllis?
I think it's difficult to be jumping, turning with masks on. If we have to do that in rehearsal, actually to have a mask, it's hard to breathe in them, and I would have to monitor their jumping because that's difficult.
Right. Yeah, sure. So that's God's giving us this challenge for some reason. So we just have to do what we can to pull everybody through it together. So let's move on to Mike Peluso, the famous Mike Peluso. Tell us a little bit about you and True Living and how you got started.
Well, first of all, thank you, Ava, so much for having me on the show today. And it's really an honor to be part of such an amazing group of people. You guys are awesome and inspiring. And I just love the energy of everybody here. Phil, my mother is a ballet teacher, which, and I feel for you, she is a ballet teacher. And it's hard for those guys that, talk about a beautiful, and there's so many people out there that have been affected by this. I mean, artists and, it's just, the only thing I can say is do not give up, because what you offer in its purest form is one of the most valuable things that's out there. The art of the body, I think, is something that inspires everybody and will continue for many, 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 many generations. So weather the storm.
Like the one we're getting?
Scott and Jerry, I love what you guys are doing too. And Ava, obviously super inspiring. Ava, what would you like to know? I'm a pretty dynamic guy. What would you like to know?
Well, the other people here don't know you as well as I've, been getting to know you. So if you could just give them a little background in how you got to build the True Living group.
All right. So let me see what this. So first of all, True Living is what you can consider True Living like a combination of health and entrepreneurial coaching combined for conscious entrepreneurs, right? But it's really like a lifestyle and a living philosophy. I think in the Bible they said that the truth will set you free, and I found that to be a very accurate guide. So I think that's an interesting perspective, right? This conversation of truth and And I think it goes beyond like the conversation of right and wrong. So to give you a background in who I am somebody who my mother was told she couldn't have children, and she, she's a very religious ballet dancer, and she's like, God, please, if you bless me with a son or a child, I will have him know who you are, was the conversation. And I was born on Christmas Day. And my mom chased me around with a Bible and like my entire childhood, which had me asking some seriously powerful existential questions. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that journey at all, like the parents and the, like trying to figure out yourself at that young age. But it like had me asking some serious questions, and so I kind of went on a little bit of a spiritual journey as a young kid. And when you're asking yourself powerful questions like that, it can be hard to focus in school. So instead of going to college, I traveled all around the world, studied under a bunch of different teachers, and one day I found myself teaching a group of nutritionists. I studied corrective holistic exercise kinesiology. I studied neurosomatic therapy. I studied sport nutrition specialists. I work with international athletes, and from Fortune 5 companies to all the way down to all kinds of people. And one of the things that I discovered was that lifestyle at the core of what produces results, particularly at that athletic performance, it's lifestyle, right? And given that I was working with entrepreneurs that were performing at a high level, and I was working with them 4, 5, 6 hours a week, translating that over to their lifestyle, I started to kind of create a system, and I found myself teaching this system to a group of doctors, nutritionists, coaches, speakers, and things like that. And so I'm there and I'm teaching them, and it's very simple stuff like hydration, nutrition, sleep, thoughts, breathing, exercise, and hygiene. And I'm sitting there and I'm teaching them this stuff, Ava, and I look out there and I realized that there was this issue of, hey, I understand, like, I have a philosophy, I understand how to live healthy, but how do I translate that into my job? How do I create a full-time living the healthy principles? So that became my mission, and that's a little bit about what true living is. True living is really about giving people the opportunity to create phenomenal incomes, staying in their expert zone. And the way I'll describe it is this way. Joseph Campbell has a quote where he says, most people are seeking the meaning of life, when in fact, what they're really looking for is the experience of being alive. And so when I hear that, it brings me to the awareness that right now, each and every person that's listening to this, at the level of your being, in your state of being, you're perfect, whole, and complete. You're not going to improve that. It may be a little uncomfortable to think that, who you are at that, energetic level, that elemental level is perfect, whole, and complete. You're not going to improve that, but I promise you that you are, right? And if that's the case, which it is, then we can then look at this other quote where Michelangelo, who created that statue, David, a beautiful statue, said, he was asked, how did you create this statue? And he said, I took a piece of marble and removed what wasn't David. Right? If you look at your life and you're just like, okay, well, hold on, wait a minute. So I'm perfect, whole, and complete now. I'm forgiven, right? I'm not going to go out there and improve on my state of being. What do I need to do to remove what isn't me? And that becomes the philosophy that we begin to engage, meaning that you've got a unique ability, and our job is to identify that unique ability and structure, remove what isn't that, and structure your business and your lifestyle so that you could be fully self-expressed. So that's kind of what we're doing here at True Living in a shorter, a little bit more scattered version. Hopefully that lands everything where I'm at, what we're doing, the whole 9 yards.
I love everybody's energy today. So thank you for that. You guys are amazing. I want to go back to Phyllis for a minute. Phyllis, give us the time, the place for the event that's supposedly going to happen on the 26th.
Well, it's going to be Caesars Maximus Theater in the city. And the time, it's a Saturday night. All our Saturday shows start at 7 p.m. But then we go on in October to Dracula, which is phenomenal. That's October the 24th. Again, a Saturday night at 7 p.m. And then we do It's a Short Holiday, which is like a Christmas show, a holiday show, secular though. And that's November the 21st, another Saturday night at 7 p.m. And then we go into Nutcracker. Now with Nutcracker, we usually do it at Stockton. We do 4 performances at Stockton and have for years. And we go to the Strand with orchestra. So we usually use the Garden State Philharmonic. This year we're using Anthony Girth from outside of New York. His orchestra is called 2001. And we're using them, and they aren't going to open. They're not open now, that theater. But I don't think Stockton is going to open at all, from what I gather. And that's really our biggest money maker as far as the number of shows and the idea that we don't have to worry about audience ticket sales because they take care of that and pay us a flat fee. They just asked if we would give them a recording from last year and air that. So that's going to be very challenging. In the spring, we're doing Romeo and Juliet and Midsummer Night's Dream. And that's going to be a very exciting spring. Our Romeo and Juliet is spectacular. The Midsummer Night's Dream is funny as all get out. And Carmen is just wonderful. So we have a very program coming up. Let's hope we can do it.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll all be in a better place by the spring. Hey, Jerry, tell Phyllis about your New York connection.
My daughter's sister from her dad is a Rockette, Taylor Shimko.
Oh my goodness, my mother was a Rockette.
Amazing.
And I had no idea that Mike's mom was a ballet teacher too. That's funny.
Isn't that crazy? I have a connection with every one of you.
That's crazy.
I was with her yesterday at my granddaughter's 5th birthday party, and she was telling me the same things that you were saying, the struggles and all. But yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask.
Doing it. They've canceled the whole fall.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, you might have questions of each other. I know it's a little different on GoToMeeting than it is when we're in the studio. Is there any questions that you have of each other? Would anyone like to start and ask anybody else something? Is there something you need to know? Curious about? No?
Yeah,
Michael. No, you go first.
Mike?
Go ahead. John, you go first.
Yeah, so Michael, I think we share a bit of that core. And when I distilled what I do for people into 2 words, it was basically I help people feel alive and awakened. And it was interesting that was also the core of, I think, a lot of what we're doing here, especially with the physical, the dancing and any kind of work. It is that alive and awakened feeling. And I think that a lot of people in this world might go through life and feeling a bit numbed and things like that. So I'd be curious to hear how you came to that, because it was a whole journey for me to understand that that is actually the work that we do in the world.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, you know what? I mean, like, just to seed it for everybody who's listening, I mean, like what I believe is that there's 2 states of being. You have a beautiful natural right now phenomenon of being alive. And then you can enter into a suffering state. But that, for me, that suffering state is not, and what's interesting is when you're in that beautiful natural state, there's a sense of being alive. It's not always necessarily comfortable, but it's not, it's almost like there's a sense of you about it. Like when you're grateful, you're embodying you. When you're in that suffering state, there's a sense of trying to get out of it, right? There's
Absolutely.
What I've found is that,
Absolutely.
and to answer your question, John, it was that existential questions that I was asking myself. Like, who am I? Who is God? Why am I here? That I really found. I found a consistent theme. I found that when I am believing in an illusion, and something that isn't real, I enter into a suffering state. And that I can't solve that illusionary thinking with more thinking. I have to let go of the entire thought. And when I let go of that entire thought, I come back to that beautiful natural reality, which is here right now. I think that's the biggest takeaway is that we have this belief that we can in some way improve upon ourselves, kind of like a donkey chasing a carrot, right? You ever see that the donkey and they have the mill donkeys? They take a carrot, they tie a carrot to the end of the string, and a stick. They strap the stick to the back of the donkey, and the donkey chases that carrot around and around and around. I think that the conversations that we grow up in, whether it's a religious conversation or whatever, in school or whatever, it's very much chase this carrot by the house, by the car, by the it's one day you'll be fulfilled. And I think that it takes a real deep, but kind of like what you were talking about, John. Like I can just be there with you, overlooking the ocean, and like aware that you have the solution. You know what I mean? And just that you're never going to find it in that external pursuit. That you've got to embrace that you've got it. And I think like for me, it's been willing to be uncomfortable long enough, like to no longer chase that carrot, to be aware of who I am.
The funny thing is, I believe that things happen in your life, and like they say, history repeats itself. I believe things happen for a reason. And it's so funny that as you're talking, because I met Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when I was younger, and I was in some competitions, and I met him at an event. And when my mom passed away, and I couldn't find a place to get research done until I hooked up with the National Brain Tumor Society, I decided to start my own foundation. And I was torn with that because I said, who needs another foundation to give to? Everybody's always asking me and everyone else, donate to this, donate to that. I said, who needs another foundation? And I went to sleep. And a lot of times we sleep with the sports channel on until we wake up in the middle of the night, shut the TV. But anyway, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar woke me up out of my sleep. And all I heard him say was, one person can make a difference. And that's when I started my foundation. And we're not a 501c3 because we built up the money to become a 501c3. And then I lost my very good friend to brain cancer. And so I gave that money to his family. I wound up hooking up with the National Brain Tumor Society. So I just feed the National Brain Tumor Society. But I just find it so interesting that I met him as a child or a teenager. And, he wakes me up out of my sleep to tell me to do this work. So it's just crazy. Or you talking about chasing the carrot?
Right, exactly. And I think we all have that moment, right? Where you catch yourself like, whoa, what am I doing?
Right? What am I doing? Just running around in circles, right?
We all have that moment.
Yeah, and John, I've got to ask you. First of all, I love that I am with you on that journey. I think that is something amazing. That just the adventure spirit that you have. Can I ask you, out of that entire experience, like what was the highlight? If you look back and you're like, man, I was just going from thing to thing. Like what was your greatest moment that was there? Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually two moments, and the one moment was when when Brad Gerlach said yes to mentor me. So I'd been working on that for a year, and I broke down crying that day because you pursue that, you look up to your idols of people in your life, and you're like, yeah, they've attained this huge success or fame, and for him to say yes, it just made me realize that truly anything is possible in life. I was like, if I can do this, if I can accomplish this, putting enough time and effort and heart, then truly anything's possible. So that was number one. And number two was that moment in Costa Rica when I'm sitting there looking at this beautiful sunset after there were some pretty crazy things. Before I got to that moment at that surf break, I'd been, in some pretty dangerous situations going through Costa Rica, and I wound up living above a church and just having this really amazing experience of actually getting into empty. And that moment was just like that moment where it's like, you did it. You passed the test. You showed that you have the resilience in order to be given this gift of this mission to go impact other people's lives. And from that moment, it just gave me that confidence to know that, that there's a purpose in life. So that was I think the highlight is just, when you realize that there's a larger being, like God in your life that's got your back. And that's where faith just gets so solidified, where you're willing to go through any challenges to pursue the dream and to impact people's lives.
Wow.
That's beautiful. You know, one of the things that I kind of walked away with there in that conversation was that getting into empty line. That was beautiful. Can you talk a little bit more
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, we have so many different voices and things that we think we should do or we have to do. We feel like we got to accomplish it ourselves, and then if you go to push and challenge yourself way outside your comfort zone, there's a certain point where it's almost like a surrender. So it's a surrendering to what is, like you were talking about, the reality, the moment. It's just getting into emptying your mind of all that chatter and all those voices that are saying you can't do this, or, who do you think you are, or just getting to that point of just being ready to receive, from the world, from the universe. Is a point where I think people have their lives filled with technology and busy work, and they don't take the moment in time to really just like sit and allow themselves to just be in that moment. And I think that what we're in right now, this pandemic, is waking a lot of people up to that, where they're realizing like, wow, like, look, what am I doing? Like, maybe there's something different for me. So it's getting just enough space in your mind to have something new flow into you. So getting into empty was so important for me, to be filled up with that mission and that calling.
And that's not always the easiest thing to do. That's not always the easiest thing to do, right, Mike and John? And you guys are there teaching that to others and helping them become aware, and that's so inspiring. All of you are so inspiring. Jerry, I think you had a question also.
I think
Jerry, you there? Yeah.
Okay, I think he kind of answered. I was just going to say to both of you, actually, John and Michael, about your journeys, but you guys just talked about it all, and you kind of cleared it up for me. I just think it's incredible. Cool. How old are you guys, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, my
heart's taking a dead no, or that might be technology.
I just feel like that's important for people out there to know, because then they feel like they have hope regardless of age. A lot of people, if they're too young, they feel like, well, I'm too young and nobody can help me, and they think I'm crazy and this and that. That's why I always ask that. That's all.
Yeah. Usually when people start saying you're crazy, it usually means you're on the right path, assuming you're doing positive things in the world. But I always say my heart is 25 and will always be 25, but I just turned 44. But I didn't realize this until I was around in my 30s. So I spent, all the way up until around age 30, kind of in that zone of like, you can say it's a comfort zone or a zone of being afraid to make that leap of faith. Yeah.
I think it takes us a little older. As we get older, we start seeing things differently. Jerry, you and I talk about that a lot. I want to go around and get some information from everybody on how people can find you. And I definitely want you guys to all connect afterwards too. But since you're on my screen right now, John, let me start with you. How can someone find you if they want to get information on what you do?
Yeah, just visit zerkers.com, ZERKERS.com. And there's a tab called Start Here, and to start there, and be glad to talk with anybody who's interested in, learning more about taking that leap of faith to follow their dreams and overcome that fear and just accomplish things they never thought they could accomplish in this life.
Awesome. Phyllis, how would somebody reach you? Phyllis, you there? I think I'm a little frozen. How would somebody find out information about the ballet?
They should go to our website, which is acballet.org. We are a 501c3, and all our information about tickets is there. We have a lot of discount tickets. We have subscriptions where you can save a lot of money that way. We have senior discounts. We have military and group discounts. We also have people who live in Atlantic City, discount for them and ticket sales also. So acballet.org, that's our website. That's where you can learn more about us and also get tickets.
Awesome. Great. And Mike, how does somebody reach you?
All right. Well, outside of calling our office at 908-441-7304, you could check us out at trueliving.team, email us at info@trueliving.team. And that is .team, not .com. It does take a team to succeed. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Jerry, I want to give out your info, darling.
My website's being updated, but Facebook, of course, Jerry Petito, GERIPETITO. You could put the title of my book in. I'm not an addict. I'm just an ass. It comes up. So all my info will be attached to all that as well. And that's it, really. Or get in touch with Ava.
Yeah, I'm rebranding. Also, everything's going to be falling under Ava Holly. Right now, you can still see some of the older website at 4astar.biz, the number 4astar.biz. However, avaholly.com will be up shortly. It is being worked on as we speak, and everything will fall under there, from the pocketbooks to everything else. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, under Ava Holly. There's a public figure page. There's Ava's Eye Bags on Facebook, 4A Star on Facebook, and I think under Instagram we're Ava's Eye Bags also. And that's Bags with a Z. That's Bags with a Z. Who's talking? I'm sorry, I didn't see who. Mike. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry. I'm getting a bit of a delay.
I don't know if you're, no worries. I don't know if you're wrapping up the show. I'm sure that you are. I don't know. But I just wanted to just close the story gap around speaking into those people that are out there, that are young, that are thinking about things. Maybe they're stuck, maybe they're not, and just in that inspiration, you know, like for me, it's you're not always going to know how to do something, right? Like I think that we go out there and we often try to figure out how to do something, and I think that leads to a state of overwhelm, and sometimes we don't go out there and actually make it happen. First, you know, like if you don't know how to do something, make the choice to do it, make the decision to do it, and then the how will show up. And don't feel like you've got to learn that how. Go out there and find somebody, find that who. You know, like the people that are on this call today, each one of you guys is a phenomenal human being in a very unique area. And I think that if somebody's out there and they're listening, they're like, man, I could really benefit from that. I want to speak to John. You know, I want to. You know, how can I get more involved in the ballet? You know, how can I overcome addiction? You know, what can I do to serve the larger state of humanity through charity work? You owe it to yourself to reach out, and I think that you don't need to know how, you don't need to know the outcome. You just should take that action.
Awesome. Yes, we are going to wrap up in a few minutes, and I'm going to have Jerry. When she has guests on her show, she always does a poem for them. So I know she wants to read a poem for us. And after she does that, I will just give my final thank yous to everybody, and we'll get ready to close out. So, Jerry, you want to go ahead and share something with us?
I want to say thank you to all your guests as well. And thank you to you, sweetheart. A great show.
Thank you.
You guys are all incredible. Okay. So I'm going to read a poem called Change Your Choice. We have to start looking at addiction differently, guys. It is not a disease. It's a choice. Okay? You're not powerless. Don't let them tell you you are. So here goes. Change your choice. I had a life-changing moment that I knew had to be. The only way to change things was to first start with me. So I looked in the mirror and woke up one day and thought to myself I needed to pray. So I asked God to change me, to help me stay strong, to clean up my mess, to right what's been wrong. I cleaned up my diet. I cleaned up my room. I cleaned up all habits with this old dirty broom. I kept going forward and never looked back. I refused to derail, stayed on the right track. I realized my worth and all that did matter through my selfish behavior, the lives I had shattered. I finally decided at 30 years old to stop abusing my body, my mind, heart, and soul. My life-changing choice that I had once made over 29 years now, guys, my debt has been paid. So you read all my thoughts on how to stay clean. It's all or nothing, my friend. There's no in between. To live or to die is a choice you must make. Your life is not worthless and you're not a mistake. One day at a time is a slogan you've heard. It works if you work it while applying his word. For you to get healthy, for your mind not to fail, escaping reality will keep you in jail. With addictive behavior, sex, drugs, food, or money, substituting addiction. Now, isn't that funny? I'm not an addict. This too shall pass. I'm not an addict. I'm just an ass. May the good Lord bless you and guide you.
Oh my God, Jerry, you're so amazing. I just love you. All right, one more time, guys. Let me go around, get everybody, just give us one website, phone number, something where somebody can reach you before we close out. John, shoot.
Zerkers.com, ZERKERS.com. And that page starts here. And there's a link right directly to my calendar.
Awesome. Mike?
TrueLiving.team. We're putting up a new website, but there's one there right now. It's TrueLiving.team.
Awesome. Phyllis.
acballet.org. AC stands for Atlantic City Ballet. So it's acballet.org. Just click on attend or about us to learn more about us.
Awesome. Jerry Petito.
Facebook for now. My website's being updated. Check me out on All Over with the Book. I'm not an addict. I'm just an ass. Get in touch with Ava. There you go.
Great. And we are for astar.biz or avaholly.com, which will be up soon. And again, find me on Facebook as well. Thank you guys so much. Thank you all. You're very inspiring. I'm so happy we had this group of people on today. I believe that this connection is going to be a great one. As Jerry and I call it, the little spider web. So shout out once again to Mr. Panting Productions, Marco Panting, Teens with Dreams, John Christian of Zerkers, Mike Peluso, True Living, Phyllis Papa, the artistic director of the AC Ballet, Ava Holly, 4A star, and International Hall of Fame radio show host, Jerry Petito. Ruben, thank you guys all at Hamilton Radio, Monk, Doc G, Ruben, our director, producer out there. You guys are awesome. Thank you, Jerry. And Ruben, you can close us out.
Woo. Thank you.
Love you guys.
Thank you, Ava.
Thank you. I don't know where he is. Hopefully he's closing us out. There we go. Bye, guys. Love you all. Bye, guys.
This is the Legion.
Teens with dreams, yeah. All I wanna do is me when I grow up. Teens with dreams, yeah. All I wanna do is me when I grow up. Teen with a dream don't get no harder. Gets easy once you start it. No use in running away. Mr. Panting said you got it.
Yeah, you got that, and it feels so good to be on track. Even when you fall down, ain't no other way around. Your success is determined by your bounce back. Dream.